Hey Mompreneur, are you feeling overwhelmed by content creation? I totally get it. You have a million other things to do, and somehow your kids always know the best time to interrupt you is right when you start doing work. And by best time, I mean worst time. That's why I made the 1 month of Conversation Starters content calendar. It tells you exactly what to post so you can ditch the scramble and get back to what matters most. Your little womb gremlins and your business. More time for you, more engagement for your business. Get your free 1 month of Conversation Starters content calendar today at sociallyyours.biz/content calendar. So today I get to talk to Stacy. Stacy is a copywriter. Stacy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I am Stacy. I am a copywriter. I was a teacher. I was in classrooms for about a decade before I quit without a plan, which I do not recommend. I didn't even have a plan to start a business. And then I saw this course online. I saw an ad for a course that was like, copywriting is great for former teachers. And I was like, you know what? I have 3 degrees and, I'm not going back into education. So how can I use all of this journal reflecting skills? And so I took the course and I was like, okay, this is super interesting. And I struggled with the teacher guilt of leaving. And especially coming into something like marketing, I was like, oh no, helping people make money, it just felt really selfish. But I realized as I started working with clients, my clients are doing really cool things and I still can make a really good impact. So that is kind of my spiel of, I used to be a teacher. Now I write copy. And then I also have my membership where I teach people how to write copy because my little teacher heart really missed teaching.
That's fair. And I met you through the membership because I'm in the membership and it is amazing. And you are an excellent teacher.
Oh,
I feel like I've talked to so many people that were in teaching and left to be have various online businesses.
So many. It's so funny.
Yeah.
The further I get along in business, I'm about to hit year 3, the further I go, I'm like, wow, this is so similar to teaching. Building the online community, it's it's the same as a classroom. You're like, what fun things can we do?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. All right, I could see the connection there.
Yeah, you're like, what are these people's goals? How can we help them reach their
Yeah.
goals?
That makes a ton of sense. And I feel like just for the people that I've had on the podcast, you're probably the 6th or 7th person that has said they used to be a teacher.
We find each other.
Yeah, it's amazing. So funny. And did you have a background, or what kind of teacher were you? Was it related to writing at all?
It was not. I actually taught the early grades. So I taught 1st and 2nd, 1 year of kindergarten during COVID, not my fave.
I can imagine.
I was like, you guys don't know how to do anything. What's going on? Why don't you know how to tie your shoes? So yeah, I was teaching little kids, but I actually got my degree in educational leadership. So towards the end of my time, I was leading a lot of professional development for teachers. So I was coaching teachers and then I quit. I was on my way to becoming a principal. I got my principal's license. I was ready. And then I was like, you know what? I just I can't do this for 30 more years. I just I need to do something else. And that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. The parallel is definitely there then if you were working with coaching other teachers.
Yeah. It was just a matter of learning copywriting. And once I did that, I was like, oh, I can teach people this.
Yeah, for sure. So is it safe to say you like this job better?
Oh yeah, much, much better. Just I feel like running a business compared to teaching, I feel like at the beginning it was really challenging because you don't know where to spend your time, similar to teaching, right? It's that first year is super overwhelming. You're how do I fit all of the things I need to do into this small amount of time? But now there's just so much more flexibility in my day and when I wake up, when I go to bed, if I need to take a sick day, I'm not agonizing over is it okay for me to take a sick day? Should I take a sick day? I'm I'm just going to take a nap. My clients will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. The flexibility, I think, is my favorite part of it for sure.
Yeah. And just thinking about the future and if I choose to have children, I'm this will be way more easy to go to doctor's appointments and I don't know, I get to hang out with my cats all day. So what else could I ask for?
That's a win, a huge win. Yeah, that's amazing. What is your favorite part about like copywriting specifically?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think like seeing my clients win. I was talking to my coach about this where I'm like every time I have to write emails, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to write these. And I'm like, it feels like kind of like I'm doing like an essay for school. I'm like, this is so annoying. I have to write these emails. And then like when I'm like 90% there, I'm like, ha ha ha, I'm so good at my job. I love emails. I can't wait to see what happens with these emails. It's just like I always feel like super overwhelmed at the beginning of a project, but by the end, I'm like so excited to see. And like once my clients like send me messages like, oh, like, I made all of these sales and like all of this stuff, it's like, oh, it's so exciting to like be like, hey, I did that. Like I helped you do that.
Yeah,
So I
that
think
is
that's probably
awesome.
my favorite part.
That's great. And you said the what you teach to your clients, you have a framework. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. So I teach all of my clients in the membership my Pass B framework, which is not like a super like new thing. If you have done any copywriting training, you've probably heard of PAS, which is problem, agitate, solution. And so this is actually something I use with my done for you clients too. When I do their launches and stuff, like I will make them a messaging guide that breaks this all down for them so that they know like, okay, this is what I say when I'm on social media. But basically, it's the messaging, right? So, like, before you write any copy, you want to be really clear on what you're saying. So then when you're actually writing, it's a lot easier because you already know what to say. You just have to execute. So the first part is problem. So really talking about what is it that your people are experiencing. And so even asking your current clients, like, why did you start working with me? Like, what was going on that made you actually like jump into this offer? Like, that's what you're going to want to talk about during the problem phase. Like, what are they actually experiencing? And get specific with it. Like, it's okay if the story that you tell is not exactly what the person is experiencing. But if the feeling is there, then they're going to feel validated. So if you're like talking about how you're like going through Target and spending $300 and you're carrying three kids behind you, like maybe they don't have three kids, but they still get the feeling of like, oh crap, like I just spent $300 at Target and I meant to get like two things. And so
Yeah.
just like focusing on that feeling and the problems and then talking about why those problems matter. And so really helping your people zoom out a little bit. So if if they're spending $300 at Target, why does it matter? Maybe it matters because they're not budgeting and then it's affecting like other parts of their life. And so really like helping them zoom out and connecting the dots. And then from there, you go into solution. So solution is how you would solve the problem. So this is like a lot of the content that you see that's like 3 tips to like do this, like how my client was able to, have these results. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I see with people with talking about solution content is they want to jump into their offer right away, and it's like it's okay, you can just give value. You don't have to like you can let people like sit in it because that's going to build trust, right? That's going to build that connection with your people. And then after all of that, that's going to be like your pre-launch messaging. You can go into your launch. So you can talk about your offer, you can talk about everything that is included in your offer and also why it's included. So, like, how is each part going to help them get to their goals? I think that's something that people miss sometimes because they're like, well, you get like weekly calls and you get like all of these templates, but like really connect the dots for them. Like, they don't know, pretend they don't know. And like, how exactly is this going to help them? And then the final piece is you. So, how do you relate to your offer? How do you relate to your people? What are some stories that you can tell, whether it's your brand story, whether it's like why you created an offer, just like bringing in your personality and who you are as a person, because that's also going to build that trust, build that connection with your people. And I know like that's something you talk about a lot is building that
Yeah.
trust. So yeah, just having all of those pieces that is going to bring people through the whole customer journey and help you make more sales.
I love this so much because it's not only like super valid and true, but it's also like applicable to everywhere you're marketing. Like you do it with your content just in like smaller pieces.
You do it in your emails, on like your sales page. It's just like something you can easily apply everywhere. And I think the first part where you were talking about their experiences, I wish more people did that. It's so effective, the like storytelling part of it. And that's like one of the most common like post suggestions I make to people, is like telling stories like that so people can like see themselves in that part. And it does help build like the connection and the trust part for sure, like knowing, oh, this person gets it. I think they could help me.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think people get really caught up on like, well, I don't want to do like pain point marketing. Like, I don't want to talk about people's problems. But it's like, if they aren't problem aware, like if they don't really know that they have the problems or that you specifically help them with those types of problems, like they're not going to know to buy your offer. And so like there's something there where like when you do talk about it, it's validating, like you said. It's like, okay, like this person gets it, and you're not going to buy a solution from somebody who doesn't get it. Like you want somebody who's
Right.
like, okay, right, like for your people, you are looking for people who need help selling on Instagram. So it's like that's what you're talking about. You're talking about like all of the like pain points of like struggling to create content for hours at a time. Like that sucks. I hate that. But like
Right.
if you have that content, I'm like, you know what? Let me follow Sydney some more because she gets it. She knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I think it's like a great way to show your unique selling proposition too, when especially on like social media where there's like a million bajillion different businesses doing the same things. If you can like really niche down and show like your specific story and those specific pain points, it's super helpful. And I've heard the same thing about pain point marketing, and like some people feel like it's kind of sleazy. And I have seen like a couple instances of it where it just kind of gives me the ick, but I feel like the purpose of it is to be like validating. So when you keep that validation piece in there, it's like effective and not at all like manipulative or anything. Because most of the time, like we also have had those pain points. That's how we know. That's how we're writing this. So it's not like an attack. It's like, now I get it.
Yeah, I know exactly. And I think that too, like as a people pleaser, like I think it's really hard sometimes to just like be direct and say like, "Hey, you're struggling with this." But then that's the reframe that I really need. Like I'm not like being mean. I'm just being direct. Like I'm just being really clear and concise. And like sometimes that feels mean when like all you want to do is make people happy.
Yeah.
But it's like you just have to reframe it in your head. I had this content that was like, Google Maps isn't being mean to you when they tell you to turn right. Like they're just giving you directions. Like they are just
Yeah.
communicating. And so just thinking about it as communication and like what is the point that you're trying to get across, and like how can you do that in a clear and concise way? Like it's not about being mean.
Right. For sure. And like the more direct you can be, the more you're sure like they're actually getting the point. Like don't waste time by beating around the bush.
It's so true. And then that's like when you know your ideal client like really well and you can just be like, okay, like here's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I also like that you mentioned about people jumping right into selling before just sharing value. I wish more people listen to that. I
Yeah.
feel like I understand like wanting to sell because like we all need to make money, but it takes time to get to that point where you can do it and actually get the sale.
Yeah, and it's so much of it is about relationships and building community too, because you do need that pre-launch, but there's also like, I might launch something like multiple times and I have people who maybe they're not ready at the first launch. Maybe they're like on the fence at the second launch, but by the third launch they're like, "Okay, I'm in, I'm ready." And so having that like consistency of like what you offer, of what your transformation is, of what you can help people with, that's going to really help. But yeah, just making sure that like you do hit all of those points, because nobody's going to buy from you if they don't trust you or if they don't know you, because they're just going to like see your offer and be like, well, why do I care about this? Right. And so all of those other pieces, it's building the urgency within them of like, oh, this is why I should care about this. And this is why now is a good time to act on it.
Yeah, and it's also like once you have that community and trust, it's like, okay, yeah, I have this problem and I need a solution, but like, why are you the person to help me with that solution instead of like this random other account?
Yeah, and so that's where you get really creative and you can really start talking about what makes you you, and that's the you piece.
Yeah, definitely. So for the pre-launch stage, talking about those experiences at the beginning, you have to really know like what your clients are going through. How do you get to know that?
Ooh, yes. I would actually talk to your clients. I would talk to your current clients. One of the things that I do in Launch Renaissance, which is my done for you launch package, is I always start with messaging and I actually hop on calls with my clients. And so it's kind of cool because it's like they get an opportunity to kind of talk about the program without like speaking directly to the person that they hired. And so they can be a little bit more honest. Not that anybody has ever said anything bad about my clients, but it's cool to get the perspective of like, hey, this is why I joined. Like, this is what I've gotten out of the program. And one of my favorite things about having those conversations is I usually find something that I wouldn't have thought of myself. Like, there's usually like people joined for this reason, but they actually got something else out of it that they weren't expecting. And so, how can we highlight that in the copy? Like, how can we have that come through in our message? Because I bet there's other people that want that same transformation, even if it wasn't exactly what they expected. And so just having those conversations with people, and I'm not saying like you have to like get on calls with a bunch of your clients. You can also just do it like before you get off a call, like ask them for some feedback, ask them, what was the best thing that they got out of it? How's it going for them? And these are things that like, as you listen to their words and as you listen to what they're struggling with, you can start to take some of this stuff and put it into your marketing. Because if one person has that question, if one person is struggling with something, somebody else is struggling with it, right? That's like another teacher thing. I'm like, if one person is doing it, then somebody
Right.
else is doing it too. And so having those conversations, and then what I actually do, which is like a little bit tedious, is I actually take all the transcripts and I start to organize them and find themes. And so I use those themes when I write the sales pages, when I write the emails, and then I also give that to my clients so that they can have the same messaging like on social media, wherever they're showing up. So yeah, that is how I do my messaging, is by actually having conversations with people and just like paying attention to what they're saying.
That is genius. Like I have heard so many like tips of how to get the messaging from like phone calls and like surveys and things, but like phone calls with your clients is like next level, like amazing. I want to try that now.
I'll be here when you're ready.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see, and like it's also a fun way to like get to know my clients better too, because like
Yeah.
I feel like I work with a lot of people that like aren't like big like braggers, right? They're like really like humble. They're not like, here's all my wins. And so it's cool to like hear their clients talk about like, hey, like this is everything that I've been able to accomplish while working with this person. So it's definitely like a nice perspective. But if you are somebody who is like, hey, I have no clients, I don't know what to do, Threads. Literally, like, search what you do on Threads and see what people are saying about it and start conversations and see. Sales conversations are also really good. So, because when you are talking to somebody, if they are giving you information about why they're not buying, then that's information for you of like, okay, like either I need to make some changes or like, how can I address this objection in my copy of like, it could be something. Let me think of an example. Like if somebody's saying like now's not a good time, like you might want to make a piece of content that says, well, hey, this is why this is a good time versus 6 months from now. And this is like, I like to say like choose your own adventure, right? Like you could hop in and this is what could happen, or you could just not hop in. And then
Right.
these are your two paths. And always coming from a place of like, you're in the driver's seat, you have complete control. Like we're not like pressuring people, but it's all just like, how can I help you make the best decision possible?
Reddit is also a place for that. searching Reddit for social listening is very helpful. Because it's like anonymous, no one holds back. They'll tell you everything you want to know.
Oh, I love Reddit, especially when I'm like writing in like a different niche that I haven't wrote before. Like I am like literally like looking things up on Reddit. There's some gems in there. I mean, like if one of your goals in copy is to, you know, resonate with your people, you want to use the same language that they're using. And so, you know, if you have like a PhD and you're an expert in what you do, not using like your big expert words and like really talking like at your people's level. And so when you go into like Threads or Reddit and you can read what people are saying, like that's their language, that's the way they're talking about it. And so like that's what you want to mirror in your own copy, because that's going to build that trust factor too.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to resonate a lot more.
Exactly. Yeah, Reddit is so fun. It's so great for market research.
It really is. There's like so much stuff there, like so much. And again, people just do not hold back there. You get find some really interesting things.
Yes, people are too honest on there when they're anonymous.
Yeah.
It's also a good place
true.
to look. I use Reddit all the time when I'm like trying to buy something. I'm like, reviews, Reddit. I'm like, what do people really think about this?
Yep. It's the best place for getting reviews on stuff. It's like, if I'm going to make an informed buying decision, I head to Reddit first.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And what I like to do for debunking objections in content is like how to get whatever goal, even if you don't have time or even if your kids are crawling on you all day, like objection in there. It helps a lot for sure.
Oh, even if it's a great one. It's a good copy tip.
Very easy to do too. And then you get to slide in those little like experiences from your earlier messaging. So
exactly. And it's like, I feel like messaging is something that it's going to evolve over time. Like as you and your business changes over time, your messaging is going to change, but it's also okay to be like the spaghetti throwing at the wall phase, right? Like it's okay to be testing things out.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And even like, I still test things out, right? Like I feel like I have my messaging down, but it's like, I'm like, let me see what will happen if I try this. Like it's not that serious. Like it's not that serious. Like just have fun with it, I think is one of the main things.
For sure. I like that attitude instead of that like feeling like it has to be perfect or you have to have all the answers to do it.
Nobody notices. You're your own hardest critic. Like, yeah, nobody notices.
For sure. Now, do you have a tool or something that people can use to help use this framework in their own copy?
Yes, I have a copywriting rubric. So it actually breaks down each of the sections of the messaging framework. So you can kind of see like, where do your emails stack up? Where does your sales page stack up? And then there's also some like copywriting tips in there too. Can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but it's kind of like there's two sections. One is like messaging and the second section is all about editing your copy. So it's like a before you write and then an after you write. So I'm sure you'll link it in the show notes.
I definitely will. I'm glad that there's both tips for starting and editing because I feel like sometimes the hardest part is getting started, like staring at the blank screen and just being like, what do I do now? It can be so overwhelming.
Oh yeah. I write my copy in 2 sessions. My first session is this is crap, but I'm just going to get something on the paper and like, I just write it all out. And then the second session is like, okay, like let's make this into like real good copy. But it's like, I also need a day between those because I will just get so stuck in like, this sucks. I hate this. And it's hard to like, I have to get over the hump.
Yeah, I do that too. But then I have a third stage, which is send it to you to review. So if anyone needs that in their life, definitely join Stacy's membership because that is like my favorite thing.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Gonna have to get you an affiliate link.
Yeah, I love it. So definitely check out the link in the show notes for the rubric. And then where can people find you on Instagram?
I am at Stacy Braga Copy. That's also my website. And yeah, I am on Instagram pretty much all the time. So feel free to say hi.
Perfect. And I'll put the link for that in the show notes too. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to talk to you and share all the copywriting tips with people.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you so much for listening to Mompreneur Mastery, simple Instagram strategy for busy moms. If you were listening to this episode and found yourself nodding along, I would love it if you would find me on Instagram and send me a message telling me your biggest takeaway. My handle is @socially.yours.strategist. And don't forget to grab your free 1 month of Conversation Starters content calendar so that you know exactly what to post to get more comments without spending hours brainstorming Instagram post ideas. You can get it at sociallyyours.biz/content-calendar or head to the link in the show notes.